Tiger did play some golf, as you know, this past season, just 3 times, though, all of them in the majors, best finish at the Masters, WD. After the 3rd round of the PGA, they missed the cut at the Open, really wanted to play in that 150th. Now, last week in the Bahamas, Tiger addressed the media and gave an outline of just how much he expects to play in 2023.
The goal is to play just the major championships and maybe 1 or 2 more. That's it. I mean, physically, that's all I can do. And I told you that, guys, the beginning of this year, too. I mean, I don't have much left in this leg. So gear up for the biggest ones, and hopefully, lightning catches in a bottle. And I'm up there in contention with a chance to win, and hopefully I'll remember how to do that. Giving myself a chance to get out there again.
And with that, it's time for some Tiger Woods predictions. We're of a similar vintage, man. We've been covering Tiger forever. Height of power, the highs, the lows. I've been conditioned to think that this guy can continue to pull rabbits out of the hat. But you were in the Bahamas. What did you see and what do you expect?
I feel like I should have learned this lesson so far ago. Like, just don't doubt Tiger Woods. I've been through this too many times, the ups and downs. I should really know better. It was interesting. I was on the show with you guys the day he talked last week from the Bahamas, and you were talking, you and Eamon, about showing pictures of him from this year and the limp. It was clear. He was clearly struggling on that right leg. Completely understandable after everything he's been through. I will tell you, watching him move his way, kind of go around the property last week, it was much worse. And clearly, the plantar fasciitis, it's very, very difficult. It was very painful. That said, when he just mentioned what we heard in that clip, that the idea is to play the 4 majors and 1 or 2 others, in my mind, that sounded very optimistic.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure how we get there. He played 9 rounds of golf this year, and you could see him struggle. Look, the highlight was the Masters, and that seemed like it was the high water mark for his entire year, just being on property on Monday. That felt like a Sunday at Augusta with the green jacket on the line. I mean, there was so much anticipation. Everybody wanted to come out and see him play. Everyone wanted to come out and see what he looked like in that particular case. And I can tell you, behind the scenes, he put on such a good show of not just making the cut, but at least going out, and no, he wasn't in contention, but he certainly played well enough that if he got some things to fall the right way, he very easily could have been. But behind the scenes, it was such a struggle. And I just have to ask myself time and time again, how much more of that is he willing to endure? Because I know in his mind, he 100% believes in what he just said, that if I can catch lightning in a bottle, he still feels like he can contend, especially at some of these venues. I'll go immediately to next year's Open Championship.
Sure.
The idea of what he could do at Royal Liverpool, based on what he did back in 2006, and I believe that was the clinic. That was Tiger Woods at his methodical best. For him just to hit 1 driver that entire week, that to me is the one I always go back to. It was yellow, it was fast, it was bouncy, it was perfect for him. If we get a similar scenario where all of those stars aligned and he can go out and the leg holds up and the back doesn't hurt and everything else that goes into making sure he's healthy, I can see him catching lightning in a bottle there, but everything's got to line up for that to work.
It does. It has to be frustrating when you know in your heart that you can still beat these guys. He knows that he has the swing to do it. We all know he has the mind to do it, but does he have the body to do it anymore? I know he has the motivation, A, because that's how he's built, but B, I think there's fresh motivation with his son loving the game as much as he does. And we talked to Lanny Watkins yesterday, who said he talked to John Cook, and Cookie is saying that, listen, Tiger is enjoying playing golf as much just because of this relationship with his son. And that great athletes, when they have their progeny follow them in the family business, as it were, it gives them new life. Lanny Watkins says the only reason he practices now is to play golf with his kids and hit wedges inside his kids. That competitive fire never dies. I'm not ready to say that Tiger is done. I think this plantar fasciitis is a bump in the road. It's a very difficult thing to overcome, and he said he got it because he overworked and overtrained. But this man loves work, and I still think that if he does have a week of good health, that he will have a chance to play some great golf again.
I agree with that, and I'll go back to this year. It was clear everything was aimed towards St. Andrews because, look, everything was going to be perfect for him then. He understands that golf course better than anyone else in the game of golf. It's a flat walk. Physically, it was not going to be the most demanding of the 4 major championships, and he had won there before. So everything about St. Andrews was a perfect fit for him, and his body did not cooperate.
Yeah.
My concern here is, and you're 100% right, I mean, mentally, and we're going to see that this weekend when he does the match with JT and Jordan and Rory. There's going to be some fun. there's going to be some trash talking, but I truly believe that he wants to win that because that's the competitor that's driven him to 15 major championships and everything else that he's done in the game. My fear is that the body just is not going to be there for him like it has been in the past, where if you look over the last few years, he would get those 1 weeks. He got that 1 week at the Zozo Championship, and he got the 1 week at the Tour Championship and the Masters, and everything fell into place. Watching him now, it's getting harder and harder for me to see how that 1 week matches up when he decides, will play.
You've been at the Bahamas when he has been in a tough mood, when the whole vibe was somber, in 2015.
So many times.
So many times. So I ask you, how was his mood this year? Was it different? Was it optimistic? Was it pessimistic? Was it neutral?
I think it was more optimistic than I would have thought. Again, I'll go back to the idea that for him to say the 4 majors and 1 or 2 others, and it's obvious what those 1 or 2 others are. It's going to be Riviera. I mean, that benefits his foundation. That makes perfect sense. I would think the other's probably going to be the Players' Championship because of where he's with the PGA Tour right now. And that would be a very, very significant start for him. So if those are the other 2, I think that's great for golf. It's great for the PGA Tour. Again, I kind of walked away thinking that might be overly optimistic given what we have seen out of him over the last few months, or this year, I would say. But the other side of this is, yes, if he can turn it around. We've been in this position before where you've wondered, how does he put it all back together? And we know he's got a really good team behind the scenes. We know that he's working harder than you could possibly imagine behind the scenes. As you pointed out, the reason he couldn't play last week is that he worked too hard, which is an indication. So everything is in place. I just think it gets harder and harder. And listening to him talk last week, and he has said this before, and it's a little morose. It's a little dark, but when he talks about what am I going to be doing 8 years from now when we go back to St. Andrews, well, I hope I have a leg. And look, it's joking, but you're kind of like, you really wish you wouldn't say that. But I understand where he's coming from because no one knows his body better than Tiger Woods. And going into next year, I'm sure in his mind, he's looking at Augusta and Liverpool and all these other places where he's had success. And the competitor is always going to win out because it always does.
You get the sense that the players, his peers, still kind of respect the ring and, they can poke fun at him and jab him and call him old man and uncle and all those things. But don't you think that they know the resume? They know the major championship tally and the PGA Tour tally and the history of this is the player they grew up watching. Don't you think there's still just an element of, if not fear, they want to mix it up with them, but at least respect and never counting this player out?
I'm working on a story that goes back to the meeting in Delaware that Tiger and Rory ran. And I'm just trying to get an idea of what exactly both of those players brought to the meeting. What was Tiger's message? To your point, yes, all of them, all the way down to Cameron Young, who I talked to about this. Every player understood exactly what he accomplished and how impossible that was to accomplish. If you ask a player like Cameron Young, how do you wrap your mind around winning 15 major championships? That's not something that you can do at this stage in your career. So, yes, his voice still very much carries.